If you've ever had to change the batteries in a remote control or some other device, you've definitely come across AA or AAA batteries. But why do batteries have these letters? Hey, engineering enthusiasts, today we're going to talk about something almost everyone has at home, but many people don't really know why these letters are written on batteries. Have you ever stopped to think about why there are AA, AA, C, CD, and even 9-volt batteries? Why not make things easier and use the same size for everything? Well, today I'm going to show you that the answer to this is more interesting than you might think. It all started when electronics manufacturers realized they needed a standardized system to identify batteries of different sizes. Before that, each company used its own designations, which caused a huge amount of confusion. Imagine trying to buy a battery for your remote control and not knowing if that battery was compatible or not. That's why international organizations like ANSI, which is the American National Standards Institute, and ISC, which is the International Electrotechnical Commission, decided to create a single standard. But how did they decide what that standard would be? Well, they chose to use letters to represent different sizes, and the letter A was chosen as the base unit of the system. The AA battery is considered the standard medium-sized battery, and it has very specific dimensions, approximately 14.5 millimeters in diameter and 50.5 millimeters in height. Now, when you see a AA battery, it means that it is smaller than the AA. The A battery is about 10.5 millimeters in diameter and 44.5 millimeters in height, and it is also known as the Palito battery. But you might be wondering, if the AA is small, why is the AA even smaller? The logic is simple. The more letter A's you see, the smaller the battery. Well, here's an interesting part of the story. When the battery naming system was created, there were already large batteries in use, so they were given completely different letters named C and D. The C battery is about 26.2 millimeters in diameter and 50 millimeters in height, while the D battery is the largest of the common cylindrical batteries, with about 34.2 millimeters in diameter and 61.5 millimeters in height. But why were they given different letters instead of following the A pattern? The answer is that these batteries already existed before the system was standardized, so they simply received new designations to fit the pattern. But then you might ask yourself, okay, is there a C battery, D, AA, and AA, but where is the A battery or the B battery, and is there an A battery? Well, no. Or rather, it did exist, but it's practically impossible to find it nowadays. Before 1947, when ANSC standardized battery sizes, the system started with the letter A. The A battery was the standard size, and the battery we know today as AA was called the pan light battery or pocket flashlight battery. When ANSI established the standard in 1947, they reorganized the naming system, and the original A battery was discontinued because it was an awkward size. It was too big for some devices and too small for others. And what about the B battery? The B battery also existed historically, but it was discontinued for the same reasons. It also had an intermediate size, which wasn't practical for most devices. Now you might be wondering, what is the relationship between battery size and how long it lasts? The answer is straightforward. The bigger the battery, the greater its capacity to store energy. A typical AA battery stores about 2,000 to 3,000 mAh, mAh, which is a unit of energy measurement. On the other hand, its A battery stores between 800 and 1,000 mAh, mAh, which means it lasts for a shorter time. A D battery, on the other hand, can store between 10,000 and 20,000 mAh, mAh, or even more, depending on the type. This means that if you put a D battery in a device that uses the same amount of power as a device powered by AA batteries, the D battery will last much longer. It's like comparing a small gas tank to a large one. The large tank will take you much farther. But have you ever stopped to think about why electronics manufacturers don't always use the same battery size? If all devices use D batteries, for example, electronics that use batteries would be the size of bricks and impossible to carry in your pocket. But if they all used A batteries, emergency flashlights would only last a few minutes before running out completely. The letter system allows manufacturers to choose the battery that best suits their product, considering both the available space and the required power. A wristwatch needs a tiny battery to fit in the case, while an emergency flashlight needs a large and powerful battery to shine for hours. Now, there is a battery that doesn't follow this letter system, and you've probably seen it, the 9-volt battery. It gets this name because it provides 9 volts of power, not because it follows the letter system. The 9-volt battery is used in some sensors, multimeters, and some guitar pedals, for example. But why is this battery so different from the others? Well, the 9-volt battery is an exception because its shape is completely different. It is rectangular, not cylindrical like the others. The reason for this is that the 9-volt battery needs to provide a specific voltage that can't be achieved with a single cylindrical cell. So, internally, it contains 6 small cells stacked on top of each other to reach 9 volts. It's like stacking 6 batteries inside a single rectangular casing. Besides the size, there's another important number you need to know about batteries: the voltage. Most AAA, C, and D batteries provide 1.5 volts when they're new, but you can find rechargeable batteries that provide only 1.2 volts. That small difference of 0.3 volts might seem insignificant, but in some sensitive devices, like old digital cameras, this difference can affect performance. That's why some devices work better with AA alkaline batteries, which provide 1.5 volts, than with rechargeable batteries, which provide only 1.2 volts. The device was designed to operate with a specific voltage, and when you use a battery with a lower voltage, it might not work as well. But have you ever wondered if the battery naming system will change in the future? Well, with advances in technology, batteries are becoming more and more efficient and compact. Many modern devices no longer use AA or AA batteries. They use custom lithium-ion batteries which are much smaller and more powerful. Cell phones, tablets, laptops, they all use custom batteries that don't follow the letter standard. However, the letter system remains the standard for disposable and conventional rechargeable batteries because it's simple, universal, and has worked for decades. As long as there are devices that use these batteries, the naming system will probably remain as it is. But even though people think they know all types of batteries, I invite you to get to know a few others. If you've ever had to open your home's gate remote, you might have seen an A23 or A27 battery. Unlike the batteries we're used to, they provide 12 volts of voltage. They're also very common in automatic gate remotes, and they're quite small. We also have A-type batteries with 4 A's, which are very thin, about 8.3 mm in diameter and 42.5 mm in length. And you can find them in some tablet pens, some laser pointers, very slim remote controls, and some medical equipment. We also have the half AA type battery, which, guess what, is half the size of an AA battery. But instead of providing 1.5 volts, it provides 3.6 volts. And it has more specific uses, and usually these batteries end up being soldered onto circuit boards like security systems and PLCs. And so, in the end, what was supposed to be standard for everything turned into a mess of types and acronyms. But at least now you know, the more as a battery has, the smaller it's going to be. And it's good to know that there are 2 types of batteries that can go in your gate remote. And that might be what's making it not work as it should. If you've made it this far and liked the video, take the opportunity to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your like and activate the notification bell. Now tell me this, Have you ever pressed the remote control button harder to try to squeeze out the last bit of battery power? Have you ever gotten confused when changing device batteries and found out you bought the wrong one? Or maybe you're already using rechargeable batteries, and have you already gotten a rechargeable AA battery that charges directly via USB-C cable? Tell me in the comments below. On the side here, there are 2 interesting video options that you need to watch to expand your knowledge and explore your curiosity. And if you want to support us, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and consider becoming a channel member. That's it, engineering lovers. Big hug, and I'll see you in the next video.